update. Would I be the a-hole if I refused to sell my house below market value? Original story. I, 27 female, own a 75% share of a house with my ex, 28 male, who owns a 25% share. The difference is due to my own savings and inheritance money that I put into the house when we bought it a few years ago. Now we are splitting up, mostly because he and I want different things, and he is unwilling to compromise to meet my needs. The house is great, and in the city we grew up in. He loves the place and would like to stay as it has emotional value to him, but due to his lower income, he isn't able to buy me out at market value. He asked I sell him my share below value, which would cost me around $40,000, so he can stay. His reasons are because I don't love the city and the house, and will be able to get something equivalent. I have ambitions to move abroad, so it's more pragmatic to buy him out because I actually want the house. I also have more savings and a much higher income, so indeed it will be easy to get a similar place on my own, while that is impossible for him. While indeed it wouldn't impact me that much to lose the money, I just don't think it's fair as he's been having much lower living costs due to our lower mortgage, due to the money I put in, and I agreed to give him a share in the first place when I was planning to buy it alone, so he profits due to the increased market value if I buy him out. He thinks I'm an a-hole for not agreeing immediately to his plan, and all our friends and family are on his side and calling me a cold heartless witch for kicking him out after breaking up with him. So would I be the a-hole to not agree to this plan? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. If your friends and relatives want him to have that $40,000, then they can all get together and give it to him. Not the a-hole. Absolutely do not agree to his demand. It is not your responsibility to take a $40,000 loss just because, what, that's what's most convenient for him? You've already put so much more into this house than he has. If there's a way to go forward with minimal or no contact with him, for example having a lawyer handle all future communications, that would be best. Do not interact with any of the friends or family he directed to attack you. Block them if possible. Them calling you a witch is crossing the line. Reframe. Am I the a-hole for not giving my ex $40,000? You are not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Opie's question about valuing $40,000 over a 9-year relationship really goes to show how much others have pushed that idea in her head. The one and only reason that her ex has any ownership stake in the house is because Opie was generous enough to allow him to buy a share when she wanted to purchase it alone to begin with. She was already taken advantage of once by her ex right here. The ex cannot afford that house. Plain and simple. He couldn't afford it when it was first purchased, and he cannot afford it now. The house should be sold to a third party at market value. An ex can take her own share and buy a more appropriate home for herself. If everyone else thinks he still deserves the house, they can give him, or lend him, the money to buy it at a reasonable rate from Opie. Not an a-hole. You don't typically give your ex a $40,000 parting gift when you break up. Breaking up is a gift itself in some situations. And now for the update. Thank you for everyone who commented at the time. Gotten a few requests for updates, so here goes. As per a comment, I told him I already gave him 9 years of my life, and I don't owe him anymore. Strangely, he was calm and asked for 3 months to find a way to come up with the money. In the end, he bought my share. I'm sure I could have gotten much more at the open market, and our original agreement in hindsight was in his favor, but I don't care for his happiness and decided to let it go. Like the house, most of the furniture was also mine, and he cried and pleaded for me to leave it behind, as he was broke and deeply in debt with not only banks but also friends and family. And like an idiot I agreed, taking pity. I only took a few items, which I stored there while I found a new place. When I came to pick it up this weekend, lo and behold, he has gotten top-end replacements for the items I did take. Broke, huh? My butt. All in all, he was just taking advantage of me, and has zero dignity begging his ex for money, furniture, and it's clear to me he was always taking and never giving back. It was a very expensive lesson. I probably was a wuss paying him off, putting my own financial stability at risk, as that's what happened, for someone who would have never done that for me even when we were together. Not the most exciting update, but I do get a fresh start in a place that is only mine. You did something out of kindness and empathy. He took advantage. Don't beat yourself up for being a good person. Be glad you are away from this taker. Good luck in moving abroad. Yeah, maybe mistakes were made, but nothing earth-shattering. Cut your losses and move on knowing that you're better off now that he's entirely out of your life. It's how I think about charity or helping people on the street. Others tell me I'm being naive, and they'll just spend it on drugs, or it's a con or whatever. Maybe, possibly, probably, but that's on them. I'm doing a nice thing, trying to be helpful, trusting and caring for people. That's how I want to live. If they are cheating on me, that's how they live. If you are untrusting and suspicious of everyone, yeah, you might be $5 richer, but that's how you're living. I'm happy. You're free now, that's all that matters. Focus on that. Yep, Opie's free and can have fresh new furniture that matches the new house and isn't tainted by a stanky ex. Way to go, Opie. Enjoy the freedom, new digs, and new things. Oh, he is still broke. Probably bought everything on credit. Don't let appearances fool you. And if he did end up borrowing from friends and family in order to buy Opie out, won't they be thrilled when he stiffs them? Next story is titled, Would I be the a-hole if I told a friend that her experience was not traumatic and that she is spoiled? I have a friend, 27, that had an agreement with her parents that they would let her live for free in a second home that they own, provided that she was in school and working towards a degree. But she dropped out of school 5 years ago and has made no plans to return, while living for free in this home. Her parents decided to sell the house last year. It was a typical home sale, and she had about 3 months to pack, move, and find a new place. She never packed or found a new place, and as a result, ended up moving in, for free, to her childhood bedroom in her parents' primary home. Her father and I frantically packed everything days before the closing, and she hadn't done anything herself. Now she retells the story that the home was sold out from under her and that she wasn't given the opportunity to buy it. No way she would qualify for a mortgage based on lack of credit and income, and that she became homeless after the sale and that the situation was traumatic for her. She keeps acting like a Nahal and blaming everything on her trauma. I'm so sick of listening to her retell the events this way so many times. So would I be the a-hole if I point out that many people would have been very grateful for years of free living, that she was never homeless, and that she's acting spoiled? Not the a-hole. 1. She was never homeless. 2. She could move back to her parents' house. Not everyone can. 3. She's been living for free for a few years. That's already a big benefit. Yeah, to her, it may seem bad because she was used to the comfort, but it's not traumatic at all objectively. She's still living for free. Basically, her free home got smaller. Now she only has a free room, and likely free meals, etc., with shared use of all the main areas instead of an entire free house to herself. She didn't even have to pack. Enablers Opie and Dad came and did it for her. I'm not entirely sure Opie and the dad should be called enablers. The purchase agreement between the seller and buyer may have contained a clause that the home is vacant prior to closing. This is so the new owner doesn't inherit the tenant and have to deal with evicting her and all that which goes with it. Also, there could be financial issues for the seller/dad. Sale falls through, reimbursing buyer expenses, inspections, etc. Maybe storage fees for the buyer's belongings and hotel rooms for buyer until they can move in possibly. It would be easier for the dad, and Opie, to pack the daughter's stuff. Not Dayhall, but why are you still friends with someone like that? She would benefit from being cut off from you and her parents ASAP. Believe it or not, we did used to have good times together. But lately she has just been acting very rude and blaming everything on her trauma, and using that as an excuse for being rude. Maybe suggest for her to go to talk to a therapist about it? I feel like one big thing must have triggered all this, to be honest. And maybe she just doesn't realize she needs to talk to a professional. Not Dayhall. At first, I thought it was going to be something, and I was going to say people have different experiences. But no, this is her just being spoiled and kinda lazy. Next story. Am I the a-hole for sticking by my no family policy? I, 52 female, inherited some money and decided to invest some of it in properties to rent out. Things were good for a few years, so when a cousin of mine approached me about renting in one of my apartments, I agreed, but only under the condition that they pay the same amount of rent as everyone else. My cousin agreed. In the first year, everything was good, until they hit hard times and were begging for leniency. They were family and had kids, so I decided to work with them a little as I was told that this was only temporarily. They still paid me something regularly, but only paid the market value once every 3 months, Because again, times were hard. And anytime I tried to speak to them about it, they would give me some sob story. And I would get pressure from other members of the family because they accidentally found out. For 2 more years, I put up with this crap. Until I found out that not only did my cousin bounce back about 6 months from when they asked the first time, but they were doing better than ever and bragged about how they could get away with paying less rent. How did I find out? The wife posted pictures of a trip in social media because she loves to brag. When I confronted them, they tried to say that the trip was paid for by someone else, but when they refused to provide proof, I hit them with an eviction. As predicted, they sent the flying monkeys after me, but drew out the eviction process as long as possible. In the end, I managed to get them out, but not after they did some damage on the way out. I'm still angry and refuse to talk to my cousin or his wife to this very day. After that, I made a no family policy and made it known to relatives that while I would recommend them other places to rent, they could never rent with me. Everyone eventually seemed to get it, or at the very least stop pestering me about it, until I was approached by another cousin, other side of the family, and asked if she could rent for me. I told a gentle but firm no, and explained my reasonings. She seemed disappointed but didn't bring it up. However, I did get an earful from her mother told me that it wasn't even their side of the family that screwed me over, so they shouldn't be punished. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. The mom's reaction just solidifies why you have that policy. She feels entitled. Pretty much guaranteed to have the same issue if you rent to her. Not the a-hole. You're not going to have a similar experience. You already have had it thanks to the mom's reaction. Respond, I appreciate you proving my point with the action you chose to take. You made a decision to inappropriately insert yourself into a legal agreement to demand special treatment. Your message is a perfect example of the exact reason I do not rent a family. Thank you for giving me such a reminder. Not the a-hole. You learned why it's often a bad idea to do business with, or lend money to, family. If people can't respect that boundary, it's on them. Not the a-hole. Never, never do business with family. Business of any kind. Don't give them loans, don't sell them stuff, or buy stuff from them. None of it is ever worth it. If you want to just give a family member money as a gift, fine. But as soon as it becomes about a loan or a business of any kind, it'll just cause problems. I agree. You can call it a loan, but be prepared for it to become a gift with no hard feelings. If you aren't good with that outcome, you should always say no. Not the a-hole. The rental process between me and a potential tenant is just that, between me and the potential tenant. The fact that you are involving yourself in something that is frankly none of your business is exactly why I have this no family policy in place. I'm sorry your daughter was disappointed, but you are exhibiting exactly the behavior that contributed to this policy in the first place. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not helping my sister who currently could be homeless? My sister and I didn't have the best relationship growing up. She spread lies and rumors about me, and she did cause 2 of my breakups and was always my parents' favorite kid. My parents eventually disowned me, and I quickly cut them from my life and paved my own path. I would say I'm pretty successful. I do own multiple properties throughout the US, including one next to my old home where she still lives. The house is currently vacant for personal reasons, but I do go there often enough to prevent squatting. My sister recently called me up, presumably finding my number from the internet, asking if I could help her. She went on this whole spiel about how her boyfriend was abusive and so forth. I mean, it is probably true, but karma. I just simply replied, "Oh, that sucks," and hung up. I did not need her in my life anymore. She called me again a week ago, and I simply asked if she had any friends that she could go with. And she said that she lost most of her friends, and the person who she is currently living with has to move. She knows I own property, and she asked if she could use it. She says that since I already pay property tax, that her living there would do nothing. I mean, I could probably afford it, but out of literally any person in the world, I would not let her there. I would literally rather it burn down. So I just said no, and if she did come to the property, that I would call the cops. I do live about an hour away in the city, not across the country. I just told a couple of friends, and I hoped they would enjoy the schadenfreude with me. Not all of them, but a couple told me that I was unnecessarily being a jerk, and that I should have some empathy for her since our parents passed away and she was close to them. Not the a-hole. Why are the stable siblings/children always supposed to rescue the messed up siblings/parents? As someone who has a sibling like that living with me right now, I wonder this all the damn time. Give your messed up sibling a move-out timeline and enforce it. I finally have, thankfully. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel would have been further away, but he refuses to go to therapy and deal with his mental illnesses, and he has opportunities to work again. So I'm less willing to have my life ruined. I didn't want him homeless during the worst of the pandemic and the rest of our family died, so I was patient for a while, but I'm not going to deal with someone being emotionally abusive when they refuse to help. No a-holes here. She wasn't really an a-hole for asking. You were fine for saying no. You really shouldn't expect other people, though, to celebrate a mistreated victim having nowhere to go. And it sounds a lot like your parents played favorites and had a golden child/scapegoat dynamic. Which means that you were likely both mistreated children, and her early bad behaviors towards you are manifestations from the parental mistreatment. It doesn't mean you need to forgive her or be nice to her, but it does mean you shouldn't expect other people to feel good about her being hurt further. Yes, being the scapegoat hurts worse, but being the golden child is also a form of child mistreatment generally. Yep, this. I agree the OP was likely hurt more growing up and would never expect someone to take in a sibling, or anyone, with this dynamic and history. If I were friends with the OP, I would 100% support their decision to not help their sibling out. They're just not the person for this, and they absolutely owe her nothing. But I would also think it would be a jerk move to expect me, as a friend, to feel great that a mistreated woman had nowhere to go, especially when the dynamic the OP describes with her parents. Not a-hole with a caveat. Not wanting your sister in your life for reasons is perfectly acceptable. Gloating to your mates over it doesn't seem like the classiest of moves, however. Were they aware of the status of your relationship with your sister, or was this news to them? In any case, you can keep her out of your life without necessarily being smug or triumphant about it.